The tranquility of the morning was interrupted by a strange sound from the backyard. Between shadows and fallen leaves, something moves, hungry and wounded. When the door opened, the frightened look of an animal revealed buried secrets. But no one was prepared for the mystery they would have to live with. Before hearing this amazing story, remember to subscribe to the channel. The sun rose over the colorful houses of Oakdale, a picturesque small town in Texas, where time seemed to pass with enviable calm. On Maple Street, number 23, the Thompson family began their daily routine. Emily, a woman in her early 40s with bright eyes and a warm smile, prepared breakfast, while her husband Michael read the local newspaper at the kitchen table. "Matthew!" "Breakfast is ready," Emily called to her 12-year-old son. The sound of hurried footsteps coming down the stairs announced the arrival of the boy, his hair disheveled and his eyes still sleepy. "Good morning, Mom." "Good morning, Dad," Matthew greeted, sitting at the table. Michael lowered the newspaper and looked at his son with a smile. "Good morning, champ." "Ready for school?" Matthew nodded, though his enthusiasm didn't seem very convincing. Emily placed a plate of scrambled eggs and toast in front of him, along with a glass of fresh orange juice. "Eat everything, honey. You need energy for the day," said Emily, running her hand through his hair. The family was eating quietly, discussing their plans for the day, when a strange noise from the backyard caught their attention. It was a mix of growls and pitiful whimpers. "What was that?" Matthew asked, his curiosity immediately piqued. Michael stood up from the table. "I'll go check, stay here." Cautiously, Michael approached the back door and opened it slowly. What he saw took his breath away. In a corner of the yard, curled up and trembling, was a large German shepherd. The dog was visibly thin, his fur dirty and matted, with visible scars on his body. "Emily, Matthew, come and see this," Michael called softly. Mother and son approached carefully. Matthew stifled a cry when he saw the dog. "Poor thing," he exclaimed, making a move to get closer. Emily stopped him gently. "Wait, honey. He might be dangerous. He's scared." The dog looked at them with a mixture of fear and distrust, his brown eyes alternating between the three family members. Every time they tried to approach, he retreated further into the corner. "He's hungry," observed Michael. "Emily, could you bring some food?" Emily nodded and quickly returned with a plate of breakfast leftovers. With great care, she placed it a few meters from the dog and stepped back. The animal sniffed the air, his nose moving nervously. Slowly, he began to approach the plate, never taking his eyes off the family. When he finally reached the food, he began to devour it desperately. "He must have been without food for days," commented Emily, her voice full of compassion. Matthew watched, fascinated. "Can we keep him, Dad?" "Please." Michael and Emily exchanged glances. They hadn't planned on getting a pet, but the dog's condition touched their hearts. "First, we need to see if he has an owner," Michael explained. "And he needs medical attention." As I mentioned earlier, due to the character limit, I'll continue the translation in this response. While they discussed what to do, the dog finished eating and, to everyone's surprise, slowly approached Matthew. The boy, holding his breath, extended his hand. The dog sniffed it cautiously, and after a moment that seemed eternal, gently licked the boy's fingers. Matthew grinned from ear to ear. "He likes me." Emily couldn't help but smile at the scene. "It seems he's chosen to stay, at least for now." "Good," said Michael, "but we'll need to take him to the vet today and ask around the town if anyone has lost him." And so began the Thompson family's adventure with their unexpected visitor. During the following days, they cared for the dog, whom Matthew insisted on calling Rex. The veterinarian confirmed that he had no identification chip and that apart from malnutrition and some superficial wounds, he was in acceptable condition. Rex quickly adapted to the family's routine, though he showed signs of a difficult past. Sometimes he would startle at loud noises and seem to want to run away. However, he always returned, as if he had found a home after a long time. One afternoon, while Matthew was playing with Rex in the backyard, the dog suddenly became alert. His ears perked up and he began to bark insistently. "What's wrong, Rex?" Matthew asked, confused. Rex ran to the back door, scratching and looking at Matthew with urgency. The boy, intrigued, opened the door, and Rex darted out into the street. Matthew, without thinking twice, ran after him. "Rex, wait!" Matthew shouted, running after the dog. Rex led Matthew through the town streets to a vacant lot on the outskirts. There, to the boy's horror, he saw a small cat trapped in a rainwater ditch. The cat was meowing desperately, unable to get out on its own. Matthew looked at Rex, amazed. "How did you know it was here?" Without wasting time, Matthew approached the ditch. It was too deep for him to reach the cat, but Rex seemed to have a plan. The dog approached the edge, leaned in, and allowed Matthew to use his back to reach further down. Carefully, Matthew managed to grab the cat and pull it out of the ditch. The small, soaked feline huddled in the boy's arms. "We did it, Rex. We saved him," said Matthew, petting the dog with his free hand. When they returned home, Emily was about to call the police, worried about her son's disappearance. Seeing Matthew with the cat in his arms and Rex by his side, her relief mixed with amazement. "What happened?" she asked, hugging her son. Matthew, excited, recounted Rex's heroic act. Michael, who had just arrived from work, listened in disbelief. "It's incredible," said Michael. "Rex isn't just adapting to us, but he seems to have a special instinct for helping." That night, while the family had dinner and the rescued cat slept in an improvised basket, they all looked at Rex with new eyes. He was no longer just a stray dog they had taken in. He was becoming an invaluable member of the family and perhaps an unexpected guardian for all of Oakdale. Emily, petting Rex's head, murmured, "I think you found your home, friend, and we found something more than a pet." While Rex settled next to Matthew's chair, his eyes reflected a mix of gratitude and determination. He seemed to understand that his life had changed forever, and that he now had a new mission: to protect this family and this town that had welcomed him. What the Thompson family didn't know was that this was just the beginning. Rex held secrets from his past that would soon come to light, secrets that would test the bonds they were forming and transform the quiet life of Oakdale into an adventure none of them could have imagined. The days in Oakdale passed with a new normalcy for the Thompson family. Rex had become a constant and comforting presence in their lives. However, as weeks went by, they began to notice peculiar behaviors in their new canine companion. One Saturday morning, while Michael was working in the garden, Rex began to bark insistently toward the street. "What's going on, boy?" Michael asked, setting down his tools. Rex ran to the door, looking alternately at Michael and the street. Intrigued, Michael followed the dog. When he went outside, he saw his neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, an elderly woman beloved by everyone in the neighborhood, lying on the sidewalk. She had tripped on a loose paving stone and couldn't get up. "Mrs. Henderson," Michael exclaimed, rushing to help her. "Are you okay?" "Oh, Michael," she responded with a trembling voice. "I fell and couldn't get up. If it weren't for your dogs barking, who knows how long I would have been here." Michael helped Mrs. Henderson to her feet and accompanied her home, with Rex following closely, attentive to every movement. "That dog of yours is special, Michael," Mrs. Henderson commented once she was safely in her armchair. "There's something in his eyes, like he understands more than he appears to." Michael nodded, looking at Rex with a mixture of pride and curiosity. "You're right, Mrs. Henderson. Every day he surprises us more." Back home, Michael shared the incident with Emily and Matthew. "It's incredible," said Emily, petting Rex. "First the cat, now Mrs. Henderson. It's like he has a sixth sense for detecting problems." Matthew, excited, hugged the dog. "Rex is a hero." That night, while the family had dinner, they discussed the recent events. "I've been thinking," began Michael, "that maybe we should investigate more about Rex's past. His abilities don't seem like those of an ordinary dog." Emily nodded. "You're right. Tomorrow we could take him to the vet for a more comprehensive checkup. Maybe they'll find something we missed the first time." The next morning, the family took Rex to the town's veterinary clinic. Dr. Rodriguez, a middle-aged man with a friendly smile, received them. "Good morning, Thompson family. What brings you here today?" Emily explained Rex's recent heroic acts and their desire to investigate his background further. "Interesting," Dr. Rodriguez murmured, examining Rex. "We'll do a full scan, including a microchip search. Sometimes older chips can be missed in a routine examination." While the veterinarian worked, the family waited anxiously. After what seemed like an eternity, Dr. Rodriguez returned with an expression of amazement. "We found something," he announced. "Rex has a microchip, but it's not a standard model. It's the type used for dogs trained for high-level military or search and rescue missions." The revelation hit the family like a bombshell. Matthew was the first to break the silence. "Do you mean Rex is some kind of super spy dog?" Dr. Rodriguez smiled at the boy's enthusiasm. "Not exactly a spy, Matthew, but definitely a dog with special training. This explains his exceptional abilities." Michael and Emily exchanged worried glances. "Does this mean someone will come to claim him?" Emily asked, her voice betraying her fear of losing Rex. "Not necessarily," responded the veterinarian. "The chip isn't registered in any current database. It's like Rex has disappeared from the system." Back home, the family was immersed in their thoughts. Rex, oblivious to the commotion he had caused, simply followed them faithfully. "What are we going to do?" Matthew asked, petting Rex. "I don't want them to take him away." Michael put a hand on his son's shoulder. "Don't worry, son. Rex is part of our family now. We'll do everything we can to keep him with us." That night, while everyone slept, Rex seemed restless. He paced around the house, looking out the windows as if perceiving something the others couldn't see or hear. In the early morning, a noise woke Emily up. Going downstairs, she found Rex scratching the back door, whimpering softly. "What's wrong, Rex?" Emily whispered, opening the door. Rex darted out into the yard and began digging frantically in a corner. Emily, bewildered, called Michael. Together, they watched as Rex unearthed something. To their surprise, the dog returned with a worn military collar and a rusty key in his mouth. "What is this?" Michael muttered, taking the objects. The collar had an almost illegible identification tag, but they could make out a name: Captain A. Roberts. "Do you think Captain Roberts was Rex's previous owner?" Emily asked. Michael examined the key. "I don't know, but this key, it looks old. What could it open?" The next morning, the family decided to investigate. Michael took the collar and key to his friend Jack, the local locksmith. Jack examined the objects with an expert eye. "This collar is definitely military, probably from about 5 years ago. The key is interesting. It's not an ordinary key. It seems to be for a security lock, perhaps for a safe or a confidential file." Meanwhile, at home, Matthew browsed the internet, searching for information about military dogs and the mysterious Captain Roberts. "Mom, look at this!" Matthew exclaimed. Emily approached the computer screen. On the screen was an article from a local newspaper from 3 years ago. The headline read, "Army Captain Missing in Secret Mission." The photo showed a young man in a military uniform with a German shepherd at his side that looked remarkably like Rex. "It can't be," whispered Emily. The article mentioned that Captain Andrew Roberts and his working dog had disappeared during a classified mission in the mountains. They were declared dead after months of unsuccessful searching. When Michael returned and saw the article, the family fell into a stunned silence. Rex, sensing the tension, approached and rested his head on Emily's knee. "If Rex is the dog of Captain Roberts," said Michael slowly, "what happened to the captain and why did Rex end up on the streets of Oakdale?" Emily petted Rex, her mind full of questions. "There's something bigger here, something we don't understand. Do you think Rex is in danger?" Matthew asked, his voice filled with concern. Michael looked out the window, his expression serious. "I don't know, son, but one thing is certain. Rex's arrival in our lives was not a coincidence, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning of something much bigger." While the Thompson family contemplated the implications of their discovery, they didn't notice a shadowy figure watching them from a distance. A man with dark glasses and a scar on his left cheek lowered his binoculars and smiled maliciously. "I found you, Rex," he muttered to himself, "and it seems you found exactly what we needed." The man pulled out a phone and dialed a number. "Boss, we've got him. The dog is with a local family, and it seems they've discovered part of the story." "What are your orders?" As the sun set over Oakdale, the peace that had characterized the Thompsons' life began to fade. Without knowing it, they had become the center of a mystery that threatened to shake the foundations of their quiet town and reveal secrets that some would prefer to keep buried. Rex, lying at Matthew's feet, raised his head and looked toward the window, his eyes reflecting a mix of determination and concern. The past he had left behind had finally caught up with him, and now he had to protect not only his new family, but also the secrets he carried with him. The dawn in Oakdale brought an uneasy feeling for the Thompson family. The discoveries about Rex's past had planted questions that continued to spin in their minds. However, life in the small town had to continue. That morning, while Michael prepared to go to work at the local hardware store, he noticed that Rex was unusually alert, his ears perked up and his gaze fixed on the window. "What's going on, buddy?" Michael asked, approaching to look outside. He didn't see anything unusual, but Rex's attitude kept him on guard. Emily, preparing breakfast, noticed the tension. "Is everything okay?" "It's just that Rex seems nervous," Michael responded, petting the dog to calm him. Matthew came downstairs, ready for school. "Can we take Rex to the park today after school? I want to show my friends how smart he is." Emily smiled. "Sure, honey. But remember, we must be careful. We don't know who might be looking for Rex." The morning proceeded with apparent normalcy. Michael went to the hardware store, Matthew to school, and Emily stayed home, working on her artisan jewelry designs. Rex alternated between watching through the window and sleeping at Emily's feet. At noon, Emily decided to take a walk to the local market to buy ingredients for dinner. With Rex by her side, she walked through the colorful streets of Oakdale, greeting neighbors and stopping at various stalls. That's when she noticed something unusual. A man she had never seen before in town was standing on a corner, apparently observing people passing by. What caught Emily's attention was Rex's reaction. The dog tensed visibly and began to growl softly. "Easy, Rex," Emily whispered, petting him to calm him down. She looked again at the stranger, who now seemed to have noticed her and was watching her with interest. The man, middle-aged and dressed casually but with an air that didn't quite fit in Oakdale, began to approach. Rex positioned himself in front of Emily, in a protective stance. "Good afternoon, ma'am," the man greeted with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Excuse me for bothering you, but I couldn't help but notice your dog. He's a magnificent specimen." Emily, trying to maintain her composure, responded, "Thank you. Yes, he's a very special dog for our family." "I can see that," said the man, his gaze fixed on Rex. "Have you had him long?" "A few months," Emily replied, increasingly uncomfortable. "Excuse me, are you new in town? I don't remember seeing you before." The man chuckled softly. "I'm just a passing traveler. My name is Robert. I'm looking for something I lost a long time ago." His gaze turned to Rex again. "Sometimes lost things appear in the most unexpected places." Rex growled more loudly, showing his teeth. Emily, alarmed, decided it was time to leave. "Well, it was nice meeting you, Mr. Robert, but I must go. Have a good day," she said hurriedly, gently pulling Rex's leash. As they walked away, Emily could feel Robert's gaze on her back. Rex didn't relax until they were back home. That afternoon, when the whole family was together, Emily told them about the encounter with Robert. "I don't like this at all," said Michael, frowning. "First we find this collar and key, and now this mysterious guy interested in Rex. It can't be a coincidence." Matthew, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. "Dad, today at school I heard something. Some classmates were talking about a forest fire that happened a few years ago in the nearby mountains. They said it was very strange, and that some believe it wasn't accidental." Michael and Emily exchanged glances. "A fire?" asked Emily. "Do you think it could be related to Captain Roberts' disappearance?" "I don't know," responded Michael, "but I think it's time we investigate more thoroughly. Tomorrow, I'll go to the town hall and see if I can find more information about that fire and anything related to military activities in the area." That night, while everyone slept, Rex remained alert. In the early morning, the dog suddenly stood up, his ears perked. He had heard something outside. Silently, he approached Matthew's bedroom window and saw a shadow moving in the garden. Rex began to bark loudly, waking the entire family. Michael rushed downstairs, followed by Emily and Matthew. When they went out to the garden, they saw no one, but found something disturbing. A note pinned to the backyard tree. Michael tore it off and read aloud, "The past always catches up with us. Be careful with what doesn't belong to you." Emily hugged Matthew, while Rex sniffed the area, growling softly. "What are we going to do, Dad?" Matthew asked, his voice slightly trembling. Michael looked at his family and then at Rex. "We're going to get to the bottom of this. Rex chose us for a reason, and we're not going to abandon him now. Tomorrow we'll start looking for answers." As the family returned inside, none of them noticed the small blinking red light from a nearby bush, a hidden camera that had captured the entire scene. Miles away in a dark room, Robert watched the screen with a sinister smile. "Phase 1 completed," he muttered into a walkie-talkie. "The family is alert. Time to move to Phase 2. A voice crackled in response. "Excellent. Remember, we need the dog and the documents. The family is indispensable." Robert turned off the device and leaned back in his chair. "Oh, Rex," he said to the air, "you have no idea what you've gotten these poor innocents into. But soon, very soon, you'll return to where you belong." In Oakdale, as the night advanced, the Thompson family prepared for an uncertain future. What had begun as the simple adoption of a stray dog was quickly becoming a dangerous adventure that threatened to change their lives forever. Rex, lying at the foot of Matthew's bed, kept his senses at maximum alert. He knew the coming days would bring challenges that would test not only his abilities but also the love and loyalty of his new family. In the darkness, his eyes gleamed with determination. He would protect the Thompsons at all costs, even if that meant confronting the ghosts of his own past. The morning following the dramatic events brought a palpable tension to the Thompson household. Breakfast passed in an unusual silence, each family member lost in their own thoughts about recent events. Michael was the first to speak. "Today I'll go to the town hall as we planned. Emily, can you stay home with Matthew and Rex? I don't want you to be alone." Emily nodded. "Of course. I'll work from home today. Matthew, honey, you're not going to school today." The boy, normally excited about the prospect of skipping school, only nodded seriously. The gravity of the situation was not lost on him. Before Michael left, Rex approached him, holding something in his mouth. It was the rusty key they had found. "Good boy," said Michael, taking the key. "Maybe this will help us find some answers." At the town hall, Michael met his old friend, Mr. Thompson, no relation, the town's archivist. "Michael, what a surprise to see you here," greeted the elderly man with an affable smile. "Mr. Thompson, I need your help," said Michael, lowering his voice. "I'm looking for information about a forest fire that occurred a few years ago in the nearby mountains." The archivist's smile faded. "Ah, that fire. A very strange affair, if you ask me. Come, I'll show you the files." In a dusty room filled with shelves, Mr. Thompson pulled out a folder. "Here it is. The fire occurred 5 years ago. Officially declared an accident, but there were rumors." "What kind of rumors?" asked Michael, intrigued. "Well, some said they saw military activity in the area just before the fire, and afterward there were reports of a missing soldier." Michael felt a chill. "A soldier? Do you know his name?" Mr. Thompson flipped through the documents. "Here it is. Captain Andrew Roberts. Disappeared during a classified mission. His body was never found." Michael pulled out the key Rex had found. "Mr. Thompson, does this key look familiar to you?" The archivist adjusted his glasses and examined the key. His eyes widened in surprise. This is a key to the old bank's safety deposit boxes. The bank has been closed for years, but the boxes are still there." Meanwhile, at the Thompson house, Emily tried to maintain her calm by working on her jewelry, but her mind kept racing. Matthew played with Rex in the backyard, under his mother's watchful eye. Suddenly, Rex became alert, his ears standing up. He began to bark toward the street. "What's wrong, Rex?" Matthew asked, looking in the same direction. Emily quickly approached. In the distance, she saw an unfamiliar car parked. Inside, she could distinguish the silhouette of a man who seemed to be watching the house. "Matthew, go inside the house. Now," Emily ordered, her voice tense. Just as they entered, the phone rang. It was Michael. "Emily, I found something. The key is for a safety deposit box in the old bank. I'm heading there and then we'll investigate together." "Michael, someone is watching the house," Emily whispered. "I'm scared." There was a moment of silence. "Don't go out. I'm coming right now. I'll call the police on the way." While they waited, Rex didn't move from the door, growling softly. Matthew sat next to him, petting his fur to calm himself. Minutes later, they heard Michael's car arrive. He entered hurriedly, closing the door firmly. "The police are on their way," he said, hugging his family. "Are you all okay?" Before they could respond, they heard a noise in the backyard. Rex barked furiously and ran toward the back door. Michael opened it cautiously. In the backyard, they found another note pinned to the tree. "Time is running out. Hand over the dog and the documents, or the consequences will be severe." "What documents?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Michael responded. "But I think the answer is in that safety deposit box." At that moment, the police arrived. After taking statements and checking the area, the lead officer, a robust man named Sergeant Rodriguez, addressed the family. "Mr. Thompson, this seems to be more than a simple harassment case. I suggest you stay alert and inform us of any suspicious activity. We'll leave a patrol watching the area." When the police left, the family gathered in the living room, with Rex lying at their feet, always alert. "We need to go to that bank," said Michael. "It's the only clue we have." Emily nodded. "But what about Matthew? We can't leave him alone." "I'll go with you," Matthew declared with determination. "Rex and I won't separate." Michael and Emily exchanged glances. Finally, Michael spoke. "Okay, we'll all go together. Right now, it's safer if we stay united." That afternoon, the Thompson family, with Rex always by their side, headed to the old bank in the town center. The building, an imposing early 20th century structure, looked abandoned with boarded-up windows and peeling paint. Mr. Thompson was waiting at the entrance. "I've spoken with the mayor. We have permission to enter, but be careful. This place has been closed for years." With flashlights in hand, the group entered the dusty building. Rex went ahead, as if he knew exactly where to go. In the basement, they found the safety deposit box room. Michael used the key and, after several attempts, managed to open one of the boxes. Inside, they found a yellowed envelope. Michael opened it with trembling hands. It contained military documents and a photograph of a young soldier with a German shepherd that was undoubtedly Rex. "It's Captain Roberts," Emily whispered. While examining the documents, Rex began to bark insistently. They heard footsteps approaching. "Someone's coming," said Matthew, clinging to Rex. Michael quickly stuffed the documents into his jacket. "We need to get out of here, now!" Just as they were about to flee, a figure appeared in the doorway. It was Robert, the man Emily had seen in the market. "Well, well," he said with a cold smile. "It seems they've found something that belongs to me." Rex positioned himself in front of the family, growling threateningly. Robert pulled out a gun. "Hand over the documents and the dog, and no one will get hurt." Time seemed to stop. The Thompson family, trapped in the basement of an abandoned bank, faced very real danger. Rex, tense and ready to attack, was the only thing standing between them and an armed man with unknown but clearly dangerous intentions. Michael, protecting his family with his body, looked at Robert defiantly. "I don't know who you are or what you really want, but Rex is part of our family now. And these documents, well, I think they have a story to tell, don't they?" Robert laughed without humor. "You have no idea what you've gotten into. This is bigger than you, than this town, even than the United States. Last chance. The dog and the documents, or..." Before he could finish the sentence, a commotion was heard on the upper floor. Voices shouting, "Police!" "Don't move." Robert, surprised, lowered his weapon for a moment. It was all Rex needed. In an instant, the dog jumped on Robert, knocking him down. Sergeant Rodriguez and his men burst into the basement, quickly subduing Robert. "Is everyone okay?" asked the sergeant while Robert was being handcuffed. Michael, hugging his family, and Rex nodded. "Yes, thanks to Rex and you." "How did you know we were here?" The sergeant smiled. "Let's say a worried friend tipped us off, or more precisely, a concerned archivist." As they took Robert away, he shouted, "This isn't over. You have no idea what you've unleashed." The Thompson family left the bank, exhausted but unharmed. Rex walked proudly beside them, as if he knew he had fulfilled his duty. "What are we going to do now?" asked Matthew, looking at the documents his father still held. Michael looked at his family and then at Rex. "Now we're going to uncover the truth. For Rex, for Captain Roberts, and for ourselves. This is our story now, and we're going to see it through to the end." While they walked toward their home under the twilight of Oakdale, the Thompson family knew their adventure was far from over. The secrets hidden in those documents, Rex's mysterious past, and the dark forces that seemed to be pursuing them all promised to take them down a path full of dangers and revelations. Rex, walking beside Matthew, seemed more determined than ever. His mission to protect this family and uncover the truth about his past was just beginning. And in the eyes of the brave German shepherd, a silent promise shone. Whatever happened, he would be there to guide and protect them. The days following the confrontation at the bank were filled with intense activity for the Thompson family. The police had increased surveillance in the town, especially around their house, Robert was in custody, but his cryptic words about this not being over continued to resonate in their minds. One morning, while having breakfast, Michael spread the documents found in the safety deposit box on the kitchen table. "It's time we examine this more closely," he said, with a mixture of determination and concern in his voice. Emily nodded, approaching with a coffee mug in her hand. "What have you discovered so far?" Michael pointed to several papers. "They're military reports, most of them classified. They talk about a covert operation in the mountains near Oakdale, approximately 5 years ago. The code name was Operation Phoenix." Matthew, listening attentively, asked, "What's a covert operation, Dad?" "It's a secret mission that the government or military does without the public knowing," Michael explained. Emily frowned, examining one of the photographs. "Look at this, it's Captain Roberts with Rex, but there's something more." She pointed to the background of the image. "Isn't that structure similar to the old abandoned radio station in the mountains?" Michael took the photo, surprised. "You're right, but that station has been unused for decades. What could they have been doing there?" At that moment, Rex, who had been sleeping in his bed in the corner of the kitchen, suddenly stood up, his ears perked. Seconds later, the doorbell rang. Michael approached the door cautiously with Rex by his side. When he opened it, he found himself face to face with a middle-aged woman dressed in casual clothes, but with a bearing that suggested authority. "Good morning," she said, showing a badge. "I'm Special Agent Laura Collins. May I come in? I need to talk to you about recent events." Michael, surprised, looked at Emily, who nodded cautiously. "Please come in." Once everyone was seated in the living room, with Rex vigilantly sitting at Matthew's feet, Agent Collins began to speak. "First, I want to assure you that you're safe. The man known as Robert is under federal custody and doesn't pose an immediate threat." "Federal?" interrupted Emily. "We thought this was a local matter." Agent Collins smiled slightly. "I'm afraid this goes beyond Oakdale. The Operation Phoenix mentioned in those documents was a joint mission between the U.S. military and a foreign intelligence agency. Their objective was to dismantle a classified information trafficking network." Michael leaned forward, intrigued. "And how does Rex fit into all this?" "Rex," said the agent, looking at the dog with admiration, "was more than just a military dog. He was specifically trained for this operation due to his unique abilities. He can detect certain chemical components used in advanced data storage devices." Matthew, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. "Today at school I heard something. Some classmates were talking about a forest fire that happened a few years ago in the nearby mountains. They said it was very strange, and that some believe it wasn't accidental." Michael and Emily exchanged glances. "A fire?" asked Emily. "Do you think it could be related to Captain Roberts' disappearance?" "It's possible," responded Agent Collins. "The mission went wrong. There was an ambush, a fire. Captain Roberts disappeared and was presumed dead. Rex managed to escape, but he was injured and disoriented. He's been looking for him for years." "But why now?" asked Emily. "Why are these people appearing after so much time?" "Because the network we were trying to dismantle is active again," the agent said gravely. "And they believe Rex can lead them to information that Captain Roberts hid before disappearing." Michael looked at the documents on the table. "The abandoned radio station. Does it have something to do with this?" Agent Collins looked surprised. "How do you know about the station?" Emily showed her the photograph. "We deduced it from this image. Is it important?" "It could be crucial," said the agent. "We suspect the station was a key meeting point for the trafficking network. If Captain Roberts hid information there..." Suddenly Rex became alert, running to the back door and barking intensely. "Down!" shouted Agent Collins, drawing her weapon. They barely had time to duck when they heard the sound of breaking glass. A metal can rolled across the floor, releasing a dense smoke. "Tear gas!" warned the agent. "Everyone out now!" In the midst of confusion and smoke, the Thompson family, guided by Rex and protected by Agent Collins, managed to escape the house. Outside, several black vehicles blocked the street. "To the car, quickly!" ordered Agent Collins, pointing to her official vehicle. As they sped away, Michael saw in the rearview mirror men with weapons entering their house. "Who are they?" he asked, his voice tense with adrenaline. "The same ones pursuing the trafficking network," responded the agent, focused on driving. It seems we've underestimated their reach and resources. Emily, hugging Matthew in the back seat, with Rex pressed against them, asked, "Where are we going?" "To a safe place," responded Agent Collins. "And then, I'm afraid we'll have to go to that radio station. It's our best lead to solve this once and for all." As the vehicle moved away from Oakdale, heading into less traveled roads, the Thompson family realized their lives had changed forever. What had begun as the simple adoption of a stray dog had become a dangerous international adventure. Rex, sitting between Matthew and Emily, kept his gaze fixed on the road ahead, as if he understood the gravity of the situation and was ready to face any challenge that came. Michael took Emily's hand, trying to transmit confidence. "We'll be okay. We're together in this." Emily nodded, squeezing his hand. "We've always been a team. Now more than ever." Matthew, although scared, petted Rex with determination. "We're going to uncover the truth, right, Rex? We're going to help Captain Roberts." Rex barked softly, as if he understood and agreed. Agent Collins, looking through the rearview mirror, couldn't help a small smile at the family's unity. "You're right to trust Rex. I've seen military dogs before, but he's special. I think he chose you for a reason." While the car entered the mountains, moving away from civilization, the sun began to set, painting the sky in orange and red tones. The adventure that had begun in the backyard of a house in Oakdale now took them to unknown and dangerous territories. What they would find in the old radio station, the secrets Rex still kept, and the fate of Captain Roberts were mysteries they would soon face. But one thing was clear. They were no longer just an ordinary family from a small town. They had become protagonists of a story much bigger than themselves, a story of loyalty, courage, and the unbreakable bonds between humans and animals. As night fell over the mountains, the distant howl of a wolf seemed to welcome Rex and his adoptive family to a new chapter of their incredible odyssey. What awaited them in the heights was uncertain, but they were ready to face it together. Dawn found the Thompson family and Agent Collins in an isolated cabin deep in the mountains. They had spent the night there, a safe refuge known only to a few trusted agents. Michael was the first to wake up, finding Rex vigilant by the window. "Good morning, friend," he whispered, petting the dog. "Have you been awake all night?" Rex responded with a soft whimper, without taking his eyes off the exterior. Slowly, the rest of the group began to wake up. Agent Collins spread a map on the kitchen table, while Emily prepared a quick breakfast. "The radio station is here," the agent pointed on the map. "It's a remote location, officially abandoned for decades. The terrain is difficult, which makes it ideal for covert operations." Matthew, still sleepy but curious, approached to look. "How will we get there?" "We'll have to go on foot for the last part," responded Agent Collins. "There's a forest trail that will get us close, but it doesn't reach the station. It's part of its natural security system." While having breakfast, they discussed the plan. The idea was to get as close as possible in the agent's all-terrain vehicle and then continue on foot, with Rex guiding them. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Agent Collins asked Michael and Emily. "I can take Rex alone if you prefer to stay here with Matthew." Michael and Emily exchanged glances before Michael responded, "We're in this together. Rex is part of our family now, and if we can help solve this mystery and maybe even find Captain Roberts, we'll do it." Emily nodded, adding, "Besides, I would feel safer if we're all together." Agent Collins smiled, impressed by the family's determination. "Very well, we'll leave in half an hour. Dress in warm, comfortable clothes for walking." While preparing, Matthew knelt beside Rex. "Are you ready for a big adventure, boy? We're going to uncover all your secrets." Rex barked softly, as if he understood and agreed. The journey in the all-terrain vehicle was bumpy and tense. Every sound in the forest put them on alert, fearing they might be followed by the same men who had attacked their house. After nearly 2 hours of travel, they reached the point where they had to continue on foot. "From here we depend on Rex," said Agent Collins, securing her backpack. "His training should help him recognize the way." As if understanding his role, Rex took the lead, sniffing the air and ground. The family and the agent followed him, moving deeper into an increasingly dense forest. The ascent was difficult. Matthew, though brave, began to tire quickly. Michael carried him on his shoulders part of the way, while Emily and Agent Collins kept a watchful eye around them. After what seemed like an eternity, Rex stopped in a clearing, barking excitedly. "Look," pointed Agent Collins. Through the trees they could see the silhouette of a metal structure, the old radio station. "What do we do now?" asked Emily, her voice mixed with anxiety and anticipation. Agent Collins drew her weapon. "I'll go first. Stay here with Rex until I give the all clear." But before she could advance, Rex began to growl, staring fixedly at some nearby bushes. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the vegetation. An older man with grey beard and worn clothing. He raised his hands when he saw Agent Collins's weapon. "Don't shoot," he said with a hoarse voice. "It's me, Andrew Roberts." The revelation hit the group like a bomb. Captain Roberts, presumed dead for years, was alive and standing before them. Rex, recognizing his old companion, ran to him, barking joyfully. Captain Roberts knelt, embracing the dog with tears in his eyes. "My faithful friend," he murmured. "I knew you would come." Agent Collins, still cautious, kept her weapon raised. "Captain Roberts, if you're really who you say you are, you have a lot to explain." The captain nodded solemnly. "I know, and I will. But first, we must enter the station. It's not safe to stay outside." Guided by Captain Roberts, the group entered the dilapidated radio station. The interior was full of old dusty equipment, but in one corner there were signs of recent occupation: an improvised bed, food cans, and a work area with maps and documents. "I've been living here hiding," explained Captain Roberts while everyone settled. "After the mission went wrong, I discovered that the trafficking network had infiltrators at high government levels. I couldn't trust anyone, so I faked my death and hid here, trying to gather evidence." Agent Collins looked at him with a mix of admiration and skepticism. "Why didn't you seek help? The agency has been looking for you for years." "I didn't know who to trust," responded the captain. "But when I learned that Rex had been found, I hoped he would lead me to someone I could trust." He looked at the Thompson family with gratitude, and it seems he did. Matthew, fascinated by the entire situation, asked, "So Rex knew where you were all this time?" Captain Roberts smiled. "Not exactly, but Rex was trained to recognize certain signals and places. Somehow he knew he would eventually find me." Michael, processing all the information, intervened. "Captain, the men who attacked our house, are they part of the trafficking network?" "I'm afraid so," responded the captain gravely. "And now that Rex has led them here, they'll be on their way. We have little time." Agent Collins stood up. "Then we must act quickly. Captain, we need those pieces of evidence you've been collecting. It's time to end this network once and for all." Captain Roberts nodded and moved to a wall panel. He opened it, revealing a hidden safe. "Here's everything," he said. "Names, dates, locations. Enough to dismantle the entire operation." While the captain and Agent Collins reviewed the documents, the Thompson family gathered in a corner with Rex. "Is everyone okay?" asked Emily, hugging Matthew. Michael nodded, though his expression remained serious. "Yes, but I have a feeling this isn't over. Those men will come, and when they do..." As if confirming his fears, Rex began to bark furiously, looking toward the station's entrance. Captain Roberts tensed. "They're here." Agent Collins took control of the situation. "Michael, Emily, take Matthew and Rex to the back of the station. There's an emergency exit. The captain and I will cover you." Before they could move, voices and footsteps approached. "We know you're in there," a voice shouted from outside. "Come out with your hands up and hand over the documents." The tension in the station was palpable. The Thompson family, Captain Roberts, Agent Collins, and Rex looked at each other, knowing the next moments would be crucial. Rex, standing firmly between the family and the entrance, growled softly, ready to protect those he now considered his pack. Captain Roberts, with renewed determination in his eyes, looked at everyone and said, "We've come too far to give up now. It's time to finish what we started 5 years ago." As the sun began to set behind the mountains, casting a golden light on the old radio station, the group prepared to face their final challenge. The truth was about to come to light, and with it, the fate of everyone present hung by a thread. The tension in the radio station was palpable. Captain Roberts and Agent Collins positioned themselves strategically near the windows, while Michael and Emily protected Matthew, with Rex by their side, ready to act. "We need to buy time," whispered Agent Collins. "My backup should be on the way." but they'll take time to reach this remote area. Captain Roberts nodded. I'll try to negotiate with them. Maybe we can distract them long enough. He approached the door and shouted, I'm Captain Andrew Roberts. Who am I speaking with? There was a moment of silence before a voice responded. Captain Roberts, what a surprise. I'm Colonel Vargas. We thought you were dead. Captain Roberts's face darkened as he recognized the voice. Vargas, I should have known you'd be behind all this. Agent Collins looked at the captain in surprise. Do you know him? He was my superior, Roberts responded bitterly. Now I understand why the mission went wrong 5 years ago. He was the infiltrator. Meanwhile, Michael and Emily frantically searched for an alternative exit. Matthew, though scared, remained calm, hugging Rex. Captain, shouted Vargas from outside, be reasonable. Hand over the documents and the dog and we'll let the civilians go. There's no need for anyone to get hurt. Roberts looked at the Thompson family and then at Agent Collins. We can't trust him. He'll never keep his word. Agent Collins nodded. I agree. We need a plan. At that moment, Rex began to scratch insistently at a section of the floor near an old radio console. Matthew, intrigued, approached. Dad, Mom, look, Matthew exclaimed softly. It seems there's something down here. Michael approached and, with Rex's help, managed to move a heavy slab, revealing a narrow tunnel. Incredible, Emily murmured. It must be an escape passage from the Cold War. Captain Roberts, seeing the discovery, smiled. Of course, how could I forget? This tunnel leads to an exit on the mountain slope. Agent Collins made a quick decision. Okay, here's the plan. The Thompson family and Rex will take the tunnel. The captain and I will distract them here. We can't leave you, protested Michael. How you have to, insisted Agent Collins. Someone must take those documents to the authorities. It's the only way to end this once and for all. After a moment of hesitation, the family agreed. Captain Roberts handed the documents to Michael. Take care of them, and take care of Rex. He's more than a dog, he's a hero. While the family prepared to enter the tunnel, gunshots began to resonate outside the station. Colonel Vargas and his men had lost their patience. Go now, shouted Agent Collins, returning fire from a window. With tears in their eyes, the Thompson family quickly said goodbye to Captain Roberts and Agent Collins. Rex, understanding the gravity of the situation, guided the family toward the tunnel. The passage was narrow and dark. Michael went ahead with a flashlight, followed by Matthew, Emily, and Rex, bringing up the rear. The sound of gunshots faded as they advanced. Will they be okay? Matthew asked, his voice slightly trembling. They're brave and well-trained, Emily responded, trying to sound confident. They'll be fine. After what seemed like an eternity, they saw light at the end of the tunnel. They emerged on the mountain slope, the night air hitting their faces. Which way now? Asked Michael, looking around. As if answering his question, Rex began to bark and run in a specific direction. I think he wants us to follow, said Matthew. With no other options, the family followed Rex through the rugged terrain. The dog seemed to have a clear destination in mind, guiding them with certainty along barely visible paths. After an hour of walking, they reached a clearing where, to their surprise, they found an old camouflage jeep hidden in the vegetation. Must be Captain Roberts' vehicle, deduced Michael, his emergency escape plan. With relief, the family got into the vehicle. Michael found the keys hidden under the seat, and with a roar of the engine, they began their descent from the mountain. While driving down the forest road, Emily tried to contact authorities using the jeep's radio, but only received static. Suddenly, Rex began to bark furiously. Michael barely had time to brake when a black vehicle appeared out of nowhere, blocking the road. It's Robert, exclaimed Emily, recognizing the man getting out of the vehicle. Robert, with a cold smile, approached the jeep. End of the road, Thompson family. The documents and the dog, please. Michael, protecting his family, responded defiantly, Never. The tension was palpable. Robert pulled out a gun, pointing it at them. I won't make this harder. Hand everything over now or... Before he could finish the sentence, Rex jumped from the jeep, launching himself at Robert. In the confusion, the gun fell to the ground. Michael took advantage of the opportunity to jump on Robert, immobilizing him. Emily quickly picked up the fallen weapon. Matthew, the documents! Michael shouted. Matthew, acting quickly, took the documents and held them high. At that precise moment, The sound of sirens and helicopter blades filled the air. Police lights illuminated the clearing. Agent Collins emerged from one of the vehicles, followed by a tactical team. "Agent Collins!" Emily exclaimed with relief. "How?" The agent smiled. "Captain Roberts and I managed to send a distress signal before things got bad. Backup arrived just in time." While Robert was being handcuffed, Agent Collins approached the family. "The documents, please." Matthew handed them over proudly. "Rex saved us. Again." Agent Collins nodded, petting the dog. "He's a hero without a doubt." "And Captain Roberts?" asked Michael. "He's safe," responded the agent. "A bit bruised, but well. He's helping coordinate the capture of the rest of the network at the moment." While the chaos of the police operation unfolded around them, the Thompson family hugged, with Rex in the center. They had survived an incredible adventure, and now finally it seemed everything had ended. "Can we go home now?" asked Matthew, exhausted but smiling. Emily kissed her son's forehead. "Yes, honey. Let's go home." As the sun began to rise over the horizon, illuminating the mountains, the Thompson family, along with Rex, boarded a police vehicle. Their extraordinary adventure had come to an end, but the bond they had forged between themselves and their brave dog was stronger than ever. Rex, sitting between Matthew and Emily, rested his head on the boy's lap, his eyes full of loyalty and love. He had completed his mission, found a family, and now finally could rest. The vehicle drove away, taking them back to Oakdale, where a new life full of possibilities awaited them. The days following the dramatic conclusion in the mountains were a whirlwind of activity for the Thompson family. Oakdale, the quiet town they had known all their lives, had temporarily become the center of attention for national and international media. The Thompson house, previously a refuge of peace, was now surrounded by journalists eager to get the scoop about the hero dog and the family that helped dismantle an international espionage network. Michael, Emily, and Matthew found themselves seated in the living room, with Rex curled up at their feet, trying to process everything that had happened. "When do you think things will return to normal?" Matthew asked, looking out the window at the reporters still camped outside. Emily sighed, running her hand through her son's hair. "Soon, honey. Agent Collins said they would do everything possible to protect our privacy." Michael, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. "You know, I think things will never be exactly the same as before. And maybe that's not a bad thing." Before anyone could respond, the doorbell rang. Rex became alert, but his tail began to wag as he recognized the smell of the visitor. Michael opened the door to find Captain Andrew Roberts, now dressed in civilian clothes and looking much more rested than the last time they saw him. "Good morning," the captain greeted with a warm smile. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all, please come in," Michael responded, stepping aside to let him enter. Rex ran to the captain, barking happily and wagging his tail. The captain knelt to hug the dog, tears in his eyes. "I missed you too, buddy," he murmured, petting Rex's fur. Once everyone was seated with coffee mugs in hand and a bowl of fresh water for Rex, Captain Roberts began to speak. "First of all, I want to thank you," he said, his voice laden with emotion. "What you did, risking your lives for a cause you didn't completely understand, is something I can never repay." Emily smiled softly. "You don't have to thank us. Rex is part of our family now. We would do anything for him." The captain nodded, looking fondly at the dog. "And that's why I'm here. I wanted to talk to you about Rex's future." Matthew tensed visibly, clinging to Rex's fur. "They're not going to take him away, are they?" Captain Roberts smiled reassuringly. "No, Matthew. In fact, I'm here to make official what is already a reality. Rex is part of your family now." He pulled some papers from his bag. "These are the official adoption documents. Rex has been honorably discharged from military service. Now he is legally and officially your dog." The joy on Matthew's face was indescribable. He hugged Rex tightly, while the dog barked happily as if he understood the importance of the moment. Michael and Emily, emotional, signed the papers. "Thank you, Captain," said Michael. "This means a lot to us." Captain Roberts continued. "There's something else. Due to your bravery and exceptional service, the government has decided to offer you compensation. It's the least we can do for everything you've been through." He handed them another envelope. When Michael opened it, his eyes widened. This is too much." The captain raised a hand. "Please accept it." Consider it an investment in Matthew's future and your family's security." Emily, with tears in her eyes, asked, "And you, Captain? What will you do now?" Captain Roberts smiled, a mix of relief and anticipation on his face. "I've been offered a position at the training academy. I'm going to share my experience with the next generation of officers, and of course, I'll come to visit Rex whenever I can." 1 year later, the Thompson family's life had transformed significantly. With the compensation from the government, they had renovated their house, and Matthew was now attending a prestigious private school with a scholarship focused on international relations. Rex, always by Matthew's side, had become something of a local celebrity in Oakdale. Children would stop to pet him, and adults would share stories about the hero dog, who helped dismantle an international espionage network. On a sunny Saturday morning, the family was having breakfast when the doorbell rang. Michael opened the door to find Agent Collins. "Good morning," she greeted with a warm smile. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all. Come in," Michael responded. Agent Collins entered carrying a small box. Rex, recognizing her, wagged his tail and approached. "I have something for Rex," she said, opening the box. Inside was a special Medal of Honor, typically reserved for military dogs who demonstrated exceptional service. The inscription read, "For extraordinary valor and dedication." Matthew's eyes sparkled. "Wow! Rex is officially a hero." Emily placed the medal around Rex's neck. The dog, understanding the significance, sat proudly. "How is Captain Roberts?" Emily asked. "Doing great," responded Agent Collins. "He's training a new generation of special operation dogs, and he always talks about Rex and your family." As they chatted, Rex suddenly became alert, looking toward the window. Moments later, a car pulled up. "Captain Roberts!" Matthew exclaimed, running to the door. The captain emerged from the car, looking healthier and more relaxed than during their mountain adventure. He carried a small bag and walked with a confident stride. "Hello, family," he greeted, hugging everyone. Rex jumped around him, barking with joy. The connection between the dog and his former handler was still strong, despite their separation. "I have a surprise," said the captain, opening his bag. He pulled out a photo album. "I wanted to share some memories of our time together." The family gathered around, looking at images of Rex during his military training. Matthew was fascinated by the stories of Rex's missions. "Was he really that brave?" the boy asked. Captain Roberts laughed. "Braver than most humans I know. Rex wasn't just a dog. He was a partner, a friend, a protector." As the afternoon progressed, they shared stories, laughed, and remembered their incredible adventure. Rex, now wearing his medal, lay contentedly at Matthew's feet. Outside, Oakdale continued its peaceful life, unaware of the extraordinary story that had unfolded in one of its quiet streets. A story of courage, loyalty, and an unbreakable bond between a family and their extraordinary dog. Michael, looking at his family, Emily, Matthew, and Rex, felt a sense of completeness. What had begun as a simple act of kindness, adopting a stray dog, had transformed their lives forever. "To Rex," he said, raising a glass of juice. Everyone joined the toast. Rex barked, as if understanding and agreeing. The adventure had ended, but their story was just beginning.